Deep in Ukraine, a chilling phenomenon unfolds, known all too well by Russian soldiers, who have witnessed its deadly outcome and shared harrowing tales. The moment any comrade steps into this location, they face a grim countdown, just 12 minutes or 720 seconds before death. Russian soldiers here endure conditions far worse than mayflies, whose lifespans are famously brief. This place, Steppnah, lies near the Kinska River, flanked by Lukyanska and Primorska. It has become a lethal trap for Russian troops, yet Putin insists they must capture it at all costs. He sees Steppnah as critical to advancing northward across the Kinska River towards Zaporizhzhia, a city of major military and symbolic importance. Once a peaceful settlement of about 5,000 residents, Steppnah is now a desolate ghost town with no civilians. Only Russian soldiers creeping through its ruins, aware each step could be their last. Ukrainian drones maintain constant surveillance overhead, while Ukrainian soldiers lie in ambush, shifting positions based on real-time drone intelligence until striking with precision. As one Ukrainian soldier, call sign 9, told The Times, the average life expectancy of a mobilized Russian soldier. There is about 12 minutes, and the cost to eliminate one, factoring shells, FPV, drone strikes, and other munitions, is $5,000 to $6,000. To understand the experience, imagine a Russian soldier sent into Steppnah after a grueling trek through a deadly kill zone filled with traps and sniper fire. Before the war, it was an idyllic village with 9 high-rises surrounded by cottages and communal spaces. Now the high-rises are obliterated, cottages charred, and no trace remains of the 5,000 inhabitants. An unsettling silence pervades, like the eerie calm in a hurricane's eye, signaling nearby danger. No birds sing, no animals stir, and no human life is visible. A chill runs down your spine, but you press on because Putin demands it. Suddenly, the quiet breaks with the buzz of a reconnaissance drone overhead, forcing you to scramble for cover among rubble. Barely 5 minutes in, you crouch behind a burnt-out cottage wall, praying you evaded detection. You haven't. In a hidden Ukrainian command center, drone operators prepare to strike. The drone's live footage shows you as a heat signature on thermal imaging. Ukrainian forces know your exact location, and within minutes, an FPV strike drone will replace the reconnaissance drone to deliver lethal force. You hunker down, each second agonizingly long. After 5 tense minutes, you think you're safe enough to move. 10 minutes in, you've narrowly escaped death, for now. But every moment in Steppnah remains a gamble where survival depends on luck, skill, and war's unpredictable chaos. The psychological toll is immense. Soldiers report constant adrenaline surges and a haunting sense of dread, knowing that a single misstep could be fatal. Communications are sporadic, with radio silence often enforced to avoid detection, leaving troops isolated in their deadly mission. The terrain itself is treacherous, littered with unexploded ordnance and improvised explosive devices, hidden beneath rubble, making every advancement perilous. Medical evacuation is near impossible, and the wounded face grim prospects amid the relentless fire. Commanders press their men forward relentlessly, driven by strategic imperatives and political pressure, intensifying the human cost. Amid this, Ukrainian defenders exhibit remarkable resilience, leveraging intimate knowledge of the landscape and cutting-edge technology to maintain their deadly grip on Steppnah. The battle here encapsulates the brutal attrition and desperate stakes of the wider conflict, a stark testament to the high price paid by those on the front line. As you cautiously peek your head over what you believe to be a safe wall, a Ukrainian drone is rapidly closing in from behind. But you don't even think to glance back as you scan the steppe-like streets for the next path forward. By the time you hear the familiar buzzing sound, it's already too late. The drone scores a direct hit, instantly extinguishing your light. You survived only 12 minutes. The village of Steppnah then returns to the eerie silence it once held, patiently awaiting the arrival of the next unfortunate Russian soldier to enter. This grim fate befalls so many who risk entering this deadly settlement, and for many, it seems inevitable. At present, while Ukraine maintains control over Steppnah, it holds all the tactical advantages against the Russian assault troops. As noted in a January 14th report by UK intelligence, which detailed Russia's attempts to advance into the village, Steppnah's location on high ground makes it strategically vital. This elevated position gives Ukraine the upper hand, and we will delve deeper into why shortly. For now, this high ground allows Ukrainian forces to effectively position their drone and artillery operators on the hills, granting them a clear line of sight over the village and its surroundings. The elevated terrain also facilitates the operation of reconnaissance and FPV drones, not least because the enhanced signal strength in such areas enables these drones to search much deeper into the village for any Russian soldier foolish enough to venture inside. Combat Veteran News further highlights water as a major challenge for Russian forces. Steppnah lies about 30 kilometers, approximately 18.6 miles, from Zaporizhzhia city, and combines its high elevation with deep water bodies, placing it in a geographically challenging area. The region is partially flooded, making it nearly impossible for anyone to effectively occupy large portions of the land. While Ukraine holds the advantageous high ground over Steppnah, Russian troops are forced to trudge through flooded terrain in freezing conditions, enduring harsh weather for what often results in nothing but their own deaths within an average of 12 minutes after entering the village. This raises the obvious question: why? One key reason is Russia's push towards Zaporizhzhia city, or at least its desire to mount such an offensive. The Kinska River stands as a natural barrier that Russia must cross, and to do so, it needs to secure as much territory south of the river as possible to establish safe staging points for its troops to advance northward. Here is where Steppnah, along with nearby Primorska and Lukin, becomes crucial, providing the safe space Russia requires to attempt the Kinska River crossing and move closer to Zaporizhzhia city. The strategic importance of this city has prompted Putin to order 20,000 soldiers towards Steppnah. Capturing the village would grant Russia control of the high ground as well as a route to a city that houses Ukraine's largest operational steel plant. Losing Zaporizhzhia would be catastrophic for Ukraine's military efforts. Mongol, a senior officer commanding the Farada Group, a special forces unit within Ukraine's military intelligence, told the Times that losing Steppnah would allow the enemy to overcome the natural barrier, advance artillery, bombard Zaporizhzhia around the clock. Such relentless shelling would incite panic among the civilian population and precipitate a humanitarian crisis, creating conditions ripe for the occupation of Zaporizhzhia and the loss of this key regional center. This threat posed by artillery has also been emphasized by Combat Veteran News and UK intelligence reports, underscoring the critical nature of the ongoing battle for Steppnah. Russia aims to cross the Kinska River, targeting the village of Steppnah near Zaporizhzhia, a key regional hub whose control would grant major tactical advantages. Steppnah's strategic position near the river crossing makes it a linchpin for any further advances into southeastern Ukraine, as it provides direct access to crucial supply lines and transportation corridors, essential for sustaining prolonged military operations. Steppnah's proximity allows Russian artillery to shell Zaporizhzhia even before crossing attempts, making it a critical initial objective that could enable a broader offensive push. Combat reports indicate Russia plans to use Steppnah as a fortified forward base for sustained bombardment, leveraging its elevated terrain for precise drone reconnaissance and artillery strikes. thereby increasing the effectiveness and lethality of their strikes against Ukrainian defensive positions. Controlling Steppnah would secure vital logistics routes connecting Zaporizhzhia with nearby settlements, enhancing Russia's operational reach for moving troops, heavy weapons and supplies, and facilitating rapid reinforcement and resupply under combat conditions. Analysts note Russia's broader strategy includes instilling terror among civilians to justify heavy military losses in the fierce Steppnah's grinder zone, aiming to break morale and disrupt Ukrainian defenses through relentless bombardment and psychological pressure. This deliberate campaign under President Putin has caused over 15,000 civilian deaths and 41,000 injuries by January 31st, highlighting the devastating human cost of the conflict and the strategic use of terror to weaken Ukrainian resolve on multiple. Targeting populated areas weakens Ukrainian resistance physically and socially by destroying infrastructure, displacing residents, and eroding community cohesion, which complicates the ability to organize effective defense and civilian support networks. In 2026, Russia intensified attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure during the harsh winter months, worsening civilian suffering through widespread power outages, freezing conditions, and critical shortages of heating and medical services, further undermining morale and resilience. Alongside conventional tactics, Russia employs sabotage and assassinations, targeting railways and regional leaders, evidenced by operations like Enigma 2 against journalists, intelligence personnel, which also aim to spread fear and disrupt internal communications within Ukrainian defense circles. Securing Steppnah is crucial not only for Zaporizhzhia's capture, but also for controlling southeastern Ukraine's transport and communication networks, thereby facilitating the movement of forces and complicating Ukrainian countermeasures. Even without full control, terror campaigns support Putin's attrition and psychological warfare strategy to erode Ukrainian resolve by sustaining a climate of fear and uncertainty among both military forces and civilians. Russia deployed elite forces, including 2 paratroop divisions, a motorized rifle division, and a Spetsnaz brigade, highlighting the mission's importance despite extreme casualties, reflecting Moscow's willingness to commit its best troops to achieve this strategic objective. These troops survive an average of only 12 minutes in the deadly Steppnah death trap, a testament to the fierce Ukrainian resistance and the hazardous nature of the battlefield, where ambushes and counterattacks degrade Russian advances continuously. Heavy losses among elite soldiers raise doubts about the offensive's sustainability. Failure or depletion would force Moscow to rely on poorly trained reserves, risking the assault's next phases and necessitating a strategic reassessment amid resilient Ukrainian defense and international scrutiny. The battle for Steppnah remains a brutal and pivotal conflict focal point, encapsulating the high stakes, human tragedy, and intense military struggle defining the wider war in eastern Ukraine. For Ukraine, Steppnah represents both a vulnerable spot and a key opportunity, serving as a critical flashpoint where control could decisively shift the momentum of the broader conflict. Russia has planned to deploy its elite troops in this area, recognizing its strategic importance, which in turn has prompted Ukraine to respond by committing its best forces to prevent any further Russian advances. Despite being outnumbered approximately 7-1, Ukrainian soldiers hold several strategic advantages that have allowed them to mount a resilient defense. These include commanding elevated terrain that offers superior observation points, vital supply routes necessary for sustaining operations, and a network of fortified positions that provide strong defensive cover. Many of the defenders in Steppnah hail from Ukraine's main Directorate of Intelligence, unit known for its specialized training and operational effectiveness. These forces are further supported by well-coordinated infantry and territorial defense units, as well as highly skilled drone operators who provide real-time reconnaissance and enable precise targeting of enemy positions, significantly enhancing Ukrainian firepower and situational awareness. This combination of factors has turned Steppnah into a fiercely contested battleground, often described as a Russian nightmare, where every inch of ground is hotly contested, and any advances come at a steep cost. Ukraine's approach to the battle has been methodical and cautious, focusing heavily on intelligence-driven operations and patient observation to minimize casualties while maximizing tactical gains. For example, specialized teams such as the Mongol Assault Unit systematically clear Russian infiltrators using stealth and precision, maintaining strict radio silence to quietly monitor enemy movements like mice, demonstrating the high level of discipline and tactical acumen required in such a high-stakes environment. Although the Ukrainian forces have achieved rapid and effective kills, they balance their decisive actions with prudence. The so-called 12-minute curse, which refers to the average Russian survival time in combat, may actually be an overestimate, as many Russian soldiers likely survive only for a matter of minutes under intense Ukrainian fire. Ukraine's strategy in Steppnah has proven effective. By February 25th, the elite Harrowing unit had gained dominance over Steppnah, successfully pushing Russian forces back, reclaiming key high ground, and disrupting critical supply lines that the Russians depend on. Despite harsh weather conditions and costly Russian assaults, Artan and other Her units steadily improved the frontline situation, destroying dozens of Russian soldiers and vital pieces of equipment, thereby significantly weakening Russian combat capabilities. This progress reflects months of relentless effort, during which the 12-minute curse repeatedly thwarted Russian assaults and enabled Ukrainian counterattacks that chipped away at Russian positions. A crucial factor contributing to this success was the disruption of Russian communications networks, especially after Elon Musk and SpaceX took the unprecedented step of shutting down Russia's illicit Starlink terminals in late February. This loss severely hindered Russian command and control capabilities, fragmenting their intelligence gathering and delaying the transmission of orders, which in turn led to disorganized and ineffective Russian operations. Meanwhile, Ukraine was able to capitalize on its superior coordination and information dominance, leveraging better communication, faster intelligence sharing, and more agile command structures to maintain the initiative in the brutal battle for control of Steppnah. This combination of tactical discipline, superior technology utilization, and an effective disruption of enemy infrastructure has made Steppnah a symbol of Ukrainian resilience and strategic ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. For the isolated Steppnah invaders relentlessly pursued by Ukrainian forces, losing Starlink meant losing vital real-time communication and coordination, turning their advance into a death sentence marked by confusion and death. Starlink satellite internet gave them an unprecedented advantage, enabling seamless voice and data exchanges with command centers and units scattered across the battlefield, regardless of terrain, weather, or electronic interference. This connectivity allowed rapid tactical adjustments, timely reinforcements, and the sharing of intelligence like drone feeds and enemy movements almost instantly. Without it, units behind the front lines were cut off from command and each other, unable to support or exploit gains, leaving soldiers vulnerable amid combat chaos. The loss of Starlink halted the offensive's momentum and shattered Russian cohesion, turning a strategic advance into a lethal quagmire of miscommunication and missed opportunities. Despite mounting casualties, Russia's brutal approach continues. Soldiers are forced to march 4-5 kilometers across exposed terrain, vulnerable to sniper fire, artillery, and ambushes expertly orchestrated by Ukrainian defenders using natural cover and vantage points. This exposed movement underscores Russian command's callousness, prioritizing territory over soldiers' lives, treating them as expendable pawns in a game of attrition and geopolitical posturing. Deploying an estimated 20,000 troops, Russian forces have suffered staggering losses, highlighting Putin's reckless disregard for soldier welfare. Russian soldiers face the so-called 12-minute curse. Many perish within minutes of entering the village, demonstrating the lethal effectiveness of Ukrainian defenses and the failures of Russian tactics, reconnaissance, and equipment. Refusing these suicidal assaults is impossible. Captured soldiers report commanders, execute disobedient troops to enforce obedience and maintain offensive momentum. Meanwhile, corruption in the Russian military allows some to pay bribes up to £30,000 to avoid deadly frontline missions, creating a divide between those who can buy survival and those condemned to death. Steppnah remains a deadly trap, a modern bloodbath echoing earlier disasters like Prask, where tactical errors and brutal leadership led to catastrophic losses. This cycle reveals the tragic human cost of Russia's assaults, sacrificing thousands with little strategic gain, driven by hubris, cruelty, and disregard for human life, rather than sound strategy or concern for soldiers sent to die in futile battles. The resilience of Ukrainian forces, bolstered by advanced intelligence and effective use of terrain, contrasts sharply with the disarray and desperation plaguing Russian ranks. As Ukrainian units capitalize on the chaos, they continue to fortify key positions, ensuring that any Russian advance is met with fierce resistance and costly setbacks. International observers note that the conflict's attritional nature not only drains manpower, but also erodes morale on both sides, casting a long shadow over hopes for a swift resolution. In the meantime, the human toll mounts, underscoring the urgent need for diplomatic efforts to prevent further needless bloodshed.